Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. All right, let's talk about something that, let's be honest, most of us try to push to the back of our minds. Retirement planning. It feels so far away, right? But here's the thing. Getting a handle on this isn't just about getting older. It's actually your ticket to real financial freedoms. So let's dive right in, okay? First things first, I want you to think of a number. Just what's the magic figure you think you would need to stop? Stop working and live comfortably? Go on, just pick one. You got it? Good. Now hold on to that number. So was your number anywhere close to this? That's 4.7 million ringgit. Now, this is an estimate for what a top-tier household might need for about 20 years of retirement. But even if you're not aiming for that, this figure should be a major wake-up call for all of us. So why is there this massive gap between what we think we need and what the reality is? A lot of it comes down to a few very common and very dangerous myths. Yeah, a huge reason for that gap is that many of us are operating on some frankly dangerous assumptions about retirement. And these aren't just little misconceptions. They're the kind of myths that can completely derail your financial future if you're not careful. Here's the number one myth, okay? Oh, my expenses will go down when I retire. And yeah, you might save some money on commuting or work clothes, sure. But the reality is often the exact opposite. Healthcare costs tend to go up, and hopefully you'll be spending more on things like travel and hobbies. That's the whole point of retirement, right? And all of that costs money. And if you're feeling a little bit anxious hearing this, you are not alone. This isn't just an individual problem. It's a massive nationwide one. A staggering 90% of Malaysians under 30 are on track to have less than the basic savings needed in their EPF. That tells you this is a systemic challenge, which makes taking control of your own financial plan more critical than ever before. Okay, I know that was the scary part, but I promise I'm not here just to give you a heart attack. Because every single one of us, no matter what our income is, has a secret weapon, a superpower really, to fight back against this challenge. And that secret weapon is time. So how does time become a superpower? Well, it's all thanks to the magic of compounding. To put it really simply, it's like your money starts making its own money. The returns you earn from your investments start earning their own returns. It's like a tiny snowball that you push from the top of a hill. As it rolls, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger all by itself. And this chart, wow, this shows that snowball effect perfectly. Just look at this. If you invest just 300 ringgit a month, starting at age 25, it could grow to almost 1.4 million. But if you wait just 10 years and start at 35, that final amount gets more than cut in half. And if you wait until 45, it shrinks again. The amount you're putting in is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is how much time you give it to grow. And here's another way to think about it that just blows my mind. For every single decade you wait to start saving, you will need to save 3 times as much every single month just to catch up. The cost of waiting isn't just high, it's exponential. Okay, so now we get the why, and we definitely get that starting early is absolutely crucial. So let's move on to the how. What tools are actually out there for us here in Malaysia to build that retirement fund? So the Malaysian system is basically built on 3 main pillars. And biggest for most people is the mandatory EPF for private sector workers. Then you've got pensions for those in the public sector. And finally, you have the voluntary private retirement scheme, or PRS, which is a really powerful tool that anyone can use to give their savings a serious boost for millions of us. EPF is the bedrock of our retirement plan. It's the mandatory savings where both you and your boss contribute every month. And as of 2024, it's been restructured into 3 accounts. You've got account Peresron, that's your core retirement fund. You can't touch it. Then there's account Segestra for specific needs like education or health. Now the new account Flexible, which gives you, well, flexibility. You can withdraw from it whenever you need. Knowing this new structure is key. All right, we've seen that big scary 4.7 million number. But retirement is personal. It's not one size fits. So how in the world do you figure out what your number is? Let's make this real. A fantastic place to start is something called the 2-3 replacement rule. It's a simple rule of thumb, and it suggests you should aim for a retirement income that's about 2/3 of your last salary. So let's say you retire making 9,000 ringgit a month. Your goal would be to have enough saved up to give you about 6,000 ringgit a month. See, suddenly you have a concrete personal target to aim for. So how do you get there? It's not as scary as it sounds. You can actually follow this simple 4-step roadmap. First, just figure out where you stand right now, what you have and what you owe. Second, estimate what you'll need to spend, maybe using that 2/3 rule. Third, look at what you're on track to have from things like your EPF. And finally, and this is the most important part, figure out how to close that gap. And this table right here, this shows you what closing the gap looks like in real life. To hit a goal of, say, around 800,000 ringgit, Someone who starts at age 20 needs to save about 625 ringgit a month. But if you wait until you're 40, that same goal requires you to put away almost 3,000 ringgit every single month. It's the same finish line, but the cost of starting late is staring you right in the face. Okay, we have covered a lot. We've talked about the problem, the secret weapon, the tools, the plan. But all of this knowledge is completely useless without action. So what is the one thing you can do literally today to get the ball rolling? Look, the goal here is not to solve your entire retirement overnight. It's just to build a tiny bit of momentum. So just pick one thing from this list. Seriously, just one. Go online and check your new EPF account balances. Read one article about the PRS and its tax relief benefits, or just go into your banking app and set up an automatic transfer for 50 ringgit a month. That first small step is always the hardest, and it's also the most powerful. Because here's the crucial point, the one thing I really want you to take away from all of this. Retirement is not an age that you hit. It's a financial number that you achieve. It's the point where your money works for you so you don't have to. And the single greatest, most powerful asset you have on your side to get to that number is time. So we've laid it all out. The cost of doing nothing is crystal clear. But the power to completely change your financial future is right there in your hands right now. The only question left is, what are you going to do about it tomorrow? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer. Assalamualaikum and welcome back. All right, let's talk about something that, let's be honest, most of us try to push to the back of our minds. Retirement planning. It feels so far away, right? But here's the thing. Getting a handle on this isn't just about getting older. It's actually your ticket to real financial freedoms. So let's dive right in, okay? First things first, I want you to think of a number. Just what's the magic figure you think you would need to stop? Stop working and live comfortably? Go on, just pick one. You got it? Good. Now hold on to that number. So was your number anywhere close to this? That's 4.7 million ringgit. Now this is an estimate for what a top-tier household might need for about 20 years of retirement. But even if you're not aiming for that, this figure should be a major wake-up call for all of us. So why is there this massive gap between what we think we need and what the reality is? A lot of it comes down to a few very common and very dangerous myths. Yeah, a huge reason for that gap is that many of us are operating on some frankly dangerous assumptions about retirement. And these aren't just little misconceptions. They're the kind of myths that can completely derail your financial future if you're not careful. Here's the number one myth, okay? Oh, my expenses will go down when I retire. And yeah, you might save some money on commuting or work clothes, sure. But the reality is often the exact opposite. Numbers. Let's say you invest 2,400 ringgit a year. After 20 years in a savings account, getting maybe 3%, you'd have around 64,000 ringgit, which is pretty good. But if that same money got a 7% return from being invested, you'd have over 98,000. That is a 34,000 ringgit difference just by letting your money work harder. That is the power of investing right there. Which leads us perfectly into our first section. We've got to understand why our savings need a little bit of help. Think of this as the call to adventure for your money. It's that moment it leaves the safe harbor of a savings account and actually goes out into the world to grow. So where did that extra 34,000 ringgit even come from? Well, it all comes down to this one amazing idea, the time value of money. It's not just your money that's growing. It's that the returns you make start making their own returns. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. It's called compounding. And it is the real magic behind building wealth over time. Okay, so before your money goes on this big adventure, you need a map. And that map, well, it has to start with the traveler, which is you. So let's take a minute to figure out what kind of investor you actually are. To really define your goals, you got to ask some honest questions like, what is this money really for? Is it a down payment? Is it for retirement? Get specific. How much time do you have? And this one's huge. How much risk makes you feel kind of excited versus how much risk makes you want to lose sleep at night? Answering these questions turns a vague idea into a real concrete plan. You know, your own life situation is a really good guide for thinking about risk. For instance, if you're younger and you've got a secure job, you literally have decades to bounce back from any bumps in the market. So you might take on more risk for potentially higher growth. But if you're getting closer to retirement, or maybe your income isn't as stable, safer investments probably make a lot more sense. So just take a look. Where do you see yourself on this spectrum? This all really boils down to a basic law of the risk-return trade-off. And put simply, it just means you can't get higher returns without being willing to accept higher risk. It's a trade-off. The goal is never to eliminate risk because that's impossible. The goal is to find the right amount of risk that really lines up with your goals and your timeline. All right? You know your goals, you know your risk tolerance. Now for the really fun part, actually building your portfolio. This is where we pick the tools and we make a plan of attack. Now, the single most important strategy we're going to talk about is asset allocation. Don't let the fancy term fool you. Just think of it like creating a recipe or a blueprint for your money. By deciding how much goes into different buckets, You're building a foundation that's designed to balance out that potential for growth with the need for safety. And here's what that blueprint can look like for a younger investor who's got a long way to go. The plan is usually heavy on stocks because they have the most potential to grow. Now, as you get closer to your goal, that mix would probably shift to be more conservative with a bigger slice for something like bonds. And don't worry, we're going to break down exactly what stocks and bonds are right now. This allocation, this is your roadmap. Okay, as promised, let's look at the tools. So stocks, or what some people call equities, they basically represent ownership. When you buy a share of a company, you literally become a tiny part owner. You're betting on that company's success and hoping the value of your piece of it goes up over time. This is the growth engine of your portfolio. Bonds, on the other hand, are pretty much just loans. You're lending money to a big company or even the government. And in return, they promise to pay you back with interest. They're generally safer than stocks, and they provide that stability and predictable income to your portfolio. They're like the steady anchor on your journey. Now, for someone just starting out trying to pick individual stocks and bonds, it can feel like a lot. And that is where mutual funds are a total game changer. They pool money from tons of people, and a professional manager invests it for everyone across dozens, maybe even hundreds of different things. So you get instant diversification, which is a huge risk management tool, making them a fantastic way for beginners to get started. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Risk. Every investment has it. But playing smart isn't about trying to get rid of risk completely. It's about understanding it and managing it so it works for you. See, risk isn't just one thing. It actually comes in a lot of different flavors. You've got inflation risk, which is where your money just doesn't buy as much as it used to. There's business risk, where one specific company you invested in fails. And then there's market risk, where the whole economy just kind of takes a dip. Understanding these different challenges is the first step to being ready for them. So with all these different risks out there, how do you defend your portfolio? Well, the most powerful strategy comes down to one simple diversification. You've heard it a million times, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is exactly what that means for your money. By spreading your investments out, a problem in one area won't sink your whole ship. And the tool you use to do this, it all comes back to that asset allocation plan. That's your blueprint for diversification. Finally, let's wrap this up with the most important part of this whole plan, you. Your job doesn't end the second you make your first investment. No way. It's an ongoing process. So here it is, your action plan. A quick summary of everything we've talked about. You set realistic goals. You figure out how much you can invest. You check out the different options. You choose a diversified mix. And then, and this is so important, you monitor your investments and you keep good records. This is your personal feedback loop for success. And a huge part of monitoring your plan is just staying informed. Knowledge is your absolute best tool for managing risk. Use good, reputable sources to understand what's going on in the world. And with your investments, your role is to be an engaged, informed owner of your financial future. So we've covered the why, the what, and the how. Now the journey really begins, and it doesn't start with some giant, terrifying leap. It starts with one single manageable step. So the only real question left is this: what is your first step going to be?